Hello everyone, and welcome to, wait for it, the 10th episode of the Jim Kroft Podcast. I read today that 90% of podcasts don't reach their third episode, so I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for supporting me on this journey. We often undervalue the power of a single act of kindness, and yet all the messages and reviews which have kept me motivated during the early stages of this podcast. This leads me to introduce today's special guest, who is a paradigm of guts, consistency, and keeping going. Today, we delve into the world of the Dark Tenor, aka Billy Andrews. Billy is a German musician who's broken out internationally, but today's episode is focused not on what he's done, but how he's doing it. There are few artists I know who pivot with such ease between performer and entrepreneur. Not only does the Dark Tenor have an extraordinarily engaged following and millions of plays on Spotify, but he also manages his career as a one-person business. Having directed Billy's last 7 music videos, I've watched with curiosity and awe how he approaches the most challenging industry with a can-do attitude and an astute business acumen. I asked him to come to my Berlin studio, and today, for the first time, he breaks down in intimate detail how musicians can forge self-reliant careers in the toughest of environments. Beyond that, for solopreneurs, he dives into every aspect of his process, from his content approach, his funnels, and the levers he pulls when launching a new product. This is one of the most in-depth and practical podcasts so far, so if you're ready, let's dive in. It's just too good. It's too good. Why can't every podcast be like this? Oh, I mean, look at this little cutie. Hey, Gizmo. Hello, cutie. Now, what do you think? What are you going to do on your next tour? Yes, I know. It's a very tasty table.
I never walk alone. Literally, I'm not a star. He is, you know. He's got everything it takes.
All right, we are actually going to start. So, ready to roll, Ola?
Yeah, I'm rolling.
Billy Andrews, the Dark Tenor.
How's it going, man? Jim?
So good to have you, Darren. What a joy.
Thank you for having me.
What a joy. So, let us just flick this back to where we first met.
Let me just put away your...
Oh, thank you, man.
The Kette.
Let's pro up.
The Kette.
Yeah, exactly. That probably happened several times. So let's flick it back. So, okay, first of all, who's this that we've got sitting here with us? Because we're not podcasting alone today, are we?
Yeah, so I really tried to take the pressure off people looking at me all the time, so I got myself a Chihuahua. So Gizmo is definitely the star in the room, and he's 2.5 years old now. So and he's already taking all of the credits for everything, basically.
So for anyone actually just listening on audio, we have a Chihuahua on Billy's lap, and it's the most beautiful little dog called Gizmo. Correct?
Yes, Gizmo.
So welcome to the both of you. So look, like, when did we first met? We first met. So I had just done a job for the German artist as a director, shot a video for the German artist Joris, and we were connected by
Jenny. Yes. My former tour manager, who asked me who I wanted to have as a director for a new video that I was going to shoot. And I think we weren't in the pandemic yet.
No, it was before the pandemic. That's right.
Was it shortly before the pandemic?
It was shortly before the pandemic. We managed to get a couple in, didn't we, before the pandemic?
Yes, exactly. So that's kind of where we met. And we hit it off in a restaurant somewhere.
Right.
I don't even remember which restaurant it was, but it was a good first meet.
It was a great first meet. I always remember you insisted on paying the bill, and I thought, well, that's a damn gentleman, you know?
Yeah, I do try and pay my bills in a timely manner. I mean, that's part of the business, right?
I was talking about you wouldn't let me pay for the meal.
Oh, you paid for the meal back then. Okay.
No, you paid for the meal.
I paid for the meal. Okay.
Billy,
I don't remember that.
I must say, Billy, one thing that I have to say about you from working with you all these years, you look after your team and your crew in the most beautiful way. And that's why we've done so much work together. For those people listening, Billy and I have now, I think, made 7 music videos together.
Yeah,
or something
I believe so.
Like this. And then that's not
in strange places.
And so all over the world. And that's not even including the stuff that we did during the pandemic. So maybe we'll come to some of that and our creative relationship as well. But look, at the moment, I'd like to take it right back to the start with you. So I'd like to contextualize for people that don't know your work and to tell them about your name, where you come from, the basis of your history. So the Dark Tenor, aka Billy Andrews, tell us about how you started in music.
So I've always been in music. I started in classical music. My parents are classical musicians as well. My dad's a conductor, plays the piano. My mom's a violinist. So music's always been around us in every part of the household. There's always been someone practicing in a room somewhere in the house. There's always been someone singing or, rehearsing something for a concert. I remember my mom rehearsing every day and practicing every day for 5 to 6 hours. So there'd always be other kids at our houses as well when she would teach kids violin. So classical music has always been the origin of where I come from. And my mom, but this is my mom being my mom. She said I was born and I sang instead of screaming.
Really?
So yeah. I mean, it's my mom. But
that indicates that singing was happening really early on with you.
Yeah, but also mothers, when they give birth, are not quite there with their heads because they're on drugs. So maybe my mom was drugged.
So she really thought you were singing.
She thought I was singing, and I was actually screaming at everyone in the room to fuck off, basically.
Well, she's always she's so often at your gigs as well. So I've met your mom, and she's a massive support even to this day, great, isn't she? She loves it.
My mom's great.
Yeah.
But she, so I've always been into singing, and when I turned 5, I think I got into the first professional boys choir, which was in Hanover. So my mom and my dad are from the United States. They always wanted to be in orchestras. They wanted to be in classical music, so they decided to come to Europe and get into jobs that would keep them in classical music for the rest of their lives, because that's the way the system works in Europe.
So the music was their motivation to come over here.
Exactly. Yeah. So they were always motivated by music, and you want to get down? You want to go somewhere else?
Gizmo's complaining.
Yeah, he's like, stop talking. Talk about me, not about your work.
Well, there'll be more chat about Gizmo, I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's exactly what they did, and they got jobs, and they got jobs in Austria, in Graz, and they played in orchestras, and they then moved around like American families will in their lifetime, and moved to Flensburg, and then to Hanover in 1985, and that's where I got into the first boys choir and actually had access to what it's like singing in an instrument that is filled with all kinds of voices. So that it was really a good situation to have fun with music without having any responsibility as a child. And I quickly progressed into being one of the good ones. Because I just liked singing. I had a good way of memorizing music very quickly, so I was able to just close the sheets and just sing from my memory. And then in 1991, we moved to Dresden for everyone who doesn't know Germany, but we moved from Hanover, the western part of Germany, to the former GDR, to Dresden. And I then got into the Dresdner Kreuzchor, which is considered one of the oldest boys' choirs in the world.
Which is still very associated with.
Yes, exactly. And sang there for, I think, 8 years. So you get to travel the world. We went to all kinds of countries, to Spain, Israel, Italy. We toured Germany multiple times per year in summer and winter. So my whole childhood has been about music and being on tour and really dedicating, I'd say, 80% of your life, your daily life, to music, because being in the choir would also require singing concerts every weekend and at church, being in boarding school, and spending most of your time with the kids from the choir. So all of your friendships would be bound in that as well. So that's maybe, that might also be why I really value my team as my family.
Yes,
that I have now, because I've always been in constructions of music where people would be with me for a long time, and you'd really depend on these people to be around no matter what's happening. So that's why I tried to keep all these people close to me. And then in 2009, I moved to Berlin and started fusing. After 2 years at the opera, I then started fusing rock music with classical music, and that's kind of what I've been doing for 10 years now.
So you cut your teeth really going out into the world and living music so full on. I mean, with other young prodigies, sometimes when they're going out and they're living it to such a degree at such a young age, sometimes it becomes overbearing and too difficult. But with you, was it ever a challenge, or did you just enjoy the lifestyle
as a child?
In a way?
Well, I remember when we moved from from Hanover to Dresden. Definitely, it was a change because my dad was never there. He always had jobs somewhere else, so I don't remember growing up with my dad much. When we moved to Dresden, was of the assumption that I would be seeing my dad much more because he had a job there, which was considered a very good job. And my mom would be there and my brother would be there. But then we went to boarding school. So I didn't have both of them. So for a time, obviously, for a time. But so the first 6 months in Dresden, being in that choir, which was still run under the former GDR regime style of discipline and creating quality music, it was really a switch from being in Hanover as a child to Dresden. Then my first travel with the Dresdner Kreuzchor was Berlin, and we had a concert at the Konzerthaus at Gendarmenmarkt here, and that kind of flipped the switch in my head. And from there on, after half a year, I really started enjoying it.
Do you think that the discovery of rock and classical of rock music, because to give people context early on, what you're doing is you're sort of a crossover fusing between rock and classic music. Do you think when you discovered rock, there was some element of resisting the amount of rigor and discipline that you'd lived while you're growing up? Or was it more just a creative discovery that was, okay, I can do something?
I started discovering rock and bands like Green Day and the Foo Fighters and Bon Jovi. I used to be a huge Bon Jovi fan from the old days.
Come on, you still are, Billy. Spill the beans.
Just the old tracks.
You never lose Bon Jovi, do you?
No, you never do. But I mean, don't get me into it. And there are so many albums that suck now by Bon Jovi, but there's a lot of good ones, the old ones for especially. But so when my voice changed, when your voice changes in the Dresdner Kreuzchor, you leave from all of this, from all of the discipline stuff, and you're kind of let free into develop as a child or as a teenager. And so from there on, I started discovering bands like Green Day, the Foo Fighters, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, for all of the Germans out there, H-Blocks, and all of those cool bands. Yeah, and so then I started discovering that classical music and rock music's not very different, depending on how you look at it.
So what was it that started making the links so that you were not thinking of this music there and there's a different genre and world? Like, was it just the chord progressions or was it the emotion? What was it that started?
No, later on when I started connecting both, as my job I have now, which is bringing these worlds together. Later on when I moved to Berlin, I really tried to do the rock thing, and I almost got signed by Universal Music back then. They wanted to create the German version of Billy Idol. So
Young. This is before
before you actually got signed by Universal? Are you talking about?
Well, there was two steps of being signed to Universal. There was 2009 when I came to Berlin, where Universal Music wanted to sign me and build me as the German Billy Idol version, which is... Looking back at it, I mean, my name's Billy and I have blonde hair, so it's really close to being Billy Idol, which is not a great strategic idea, as I would say.
Either genius or idiocy. Thank you very much.
Yeah. But you know, so I rolled with it, and then obviously it didn't work out. The deal didn't get signed, and an A&R from Universal Music, actually, we were super drunk, but an A&R from Universal Music said, why don't you think about where you come from, where you want to go, and how to combine both? because he knew about my past and he knew what I was trying to do with just rock music.
So originally it was actually specifically about really putting you out as a rock artist.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting.
I've never played songs for you either, right? So there's like an array of songs out there that have all of that Billy Idol kind of music in it.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
so it's fun music as well.
So the deal doesn't happen. You go out and you get drunk with this A&R, and he says to you what?
Well, he says, think about where you come from and how you want to incorporate that into your future without even knowing what he was saying. He knew that I came from classical music, but he didn't really have a real idea. It wasn't like, I think you should do this.
Yeah.
So
it was a more metaphorical.
It was more
spiritual...
of just imagine someone holding a vodka and being drunk and in a club on Torstrasse.
Excellent.
And just being like, just throwing words back and forth.
So he said something, probably didn't even know what he was saying, and it just, with the right person saying the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, and he didn't know that it would spark an idea in my head. And
did that spark arrive in that night?
Yeah, I then, actually after that, I went to sleep, and in the morning I had that idea, and I started,
really?
What started happening from there on.
So it was like an Archimedes moment. It was an Archimedes moment.
What happened in that moment was that wait a second, let me see if I can get that.
So we got a fly, and the fly is buzzing around Billy's head.
My head. It's like I did take a shower.
And now Ola, our favorite cameraman, is chasing the fly. We'll keep you
updated on the death of the fly. Yeah, on the death of the fly.
So you wake up, you have this.
Yeah, I wake up in the morning, and then from that moment on, I started hearing that. I started hearing classical music in combination with my own music. So I started from there on writing music that would be accompanied by ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-da, for example, or by ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, that kind of stuff.
And so you started writing those songs yourself as a songwriter.
Well,
those things.
I think writing songs alone is super boring. So I got together with people that I introduced this idea to, and we started writing songs between 2010, 11, and 2012. And we came up with basically with the main songs of the first album, which would later be 2014, would then be the first album, the debut album. And I then started recording stuff, and a producer who was in the house where we were recording came up into the recording room, and he said, "Who's singing here?" And he recognized me from recording rock songs for this Billy Idol spin-off thing that didn't make any sense, but everyone else was making money except for myself, because everyone was recording demos and that kind of stuff, and Universal was starting to spend a little bit of money, but I wasn't earning money. So he said, if you ever want to do anything in that direction, I'm the guy who'd love to do it. So I then started putting together a team, subconsciously started putting together a team, because people were starting to work with me, but no one was really earning any money on it. And I started working on like this full album, which we then pitched to Universal Music again, Sony Music, Warner Music, and they all said no. And we had like the full album, a full concept. It involved myself wearing a huge mask, and we turned it into a concept thing because Game of Thrones was big, and I really wanted to appeal.
This is the birth of the Dark Tenor.
The birth of this brand, the Dark Tenor.
And they never saw your face, right?
And nobody ever saw my face for like the first 3 or 4 years or something like that. No one knew who it was, and so I was in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, I was like wearing this mask and being on like a boat and steering myself on a lake, and there's all this epic stuff going around. But even back then, we did do our own productions. And what I didn't realize at the time, because I thought this is normal, this is the way you do it. I was a super rookie back then. I had no fucking clue what was happening. And so we just did what we wanted to do, and all of the major labels said we were not interested, until we then got together with RTL, which is one of the largest private TV stations in Germany. I think even the largest one. I don't know if they are today anymore, but back then the largest, and they loved it. And they were like, that is a great concept. We'd love to do it.
Because it's so visual as well, right?
Yeah, because it was very visual, and And it was very in line with what they were doing because they were showing movies that were in that, everyone was loving the whole Game of Thrones thing and everyone was trying to go that direction.
Yep.
So they really loved it. And what they were building at that time was a company that would use ad spaces on TV that they weren't able to sell because no TV station ever sells out 100% of their ads, ad placements on TV. So you'd have like a primetime situation where you would have maybe like a 30-second gap that they weren't able to sell. And they would usually fill up with tonight on RTL, watch the primetime movie. So they'd fill it up with that kind of stuff. But they came up with a concept that another big TV station was doing to say, why don't we partner with music industry and other people, but why don't we partner up with music industry and then have a collaboration going on, a joint venture where we would earn maybe 50, 60, 70% of the revenue while we were doing the ads. And we in return would get like the ad space. So you would have like Deutschland sucht den Superstar, or you would have any other. We would even have Formula One qualifying on TV and have our ads set there, which is worth so much money because you're reaching so many people.
Yeah.
But you're not really good at targeting. You don't get to keep any of the data. So basically, it's like in German, we'd say, mit der Gießkanne rausgehen. You just be pouring water all over the place, hoping that you'd actually reach people. So that's kind of the intro that I got. And once we had RTL and they committed to us, they said, but we need a major label. And we were like, well, all of the major labels have said no. And then RTL said, if you go to the major labels now, we promise you, everyone's going to want to work with you. So the same guys at the same record companies that had neglected the album a year before were suddenly putting contracts on our tables with six-figure numbers as for the Bandübernahmevertrag, for the contracts. So that taught me a lot about not measuring success of your creativity in if someone says yes or no, because 95% you're going to get no's. And if you never ask people, you're always going to have a no, 100%. So that really taught me a lot about that situation and how important it is to bring partners in to create something that has never been seen before. So you need partners to multiply.
Well, I think that's one of the very inspiring and unusual things about you as an artist. And I didn't know that right from the start that you had this sort of capability, almost superpower of networking. And I mean, you have that and you bring that into your social media and with your fans and the inclusiveness of your team, but it's such a skill set. And I think it's so easy as an artist setting out, not nowadays, but always, to feel that you are isolated and that you're on your path and that everything is so busy and noisy out there that you I think a lot of artists have this sense that you just have to do it alone and that there's no other ways. So when you go back into your early experience, what I find very interesting is that you went deeper into the idea rather than going less when you had the rejection. And since I've known you, I've seen you doing that many times. But what would be your advice on that particular subject to an artist setting out in terms of how do you go about finding the right connections, building that first network? Because when you go out and you feel like none of the world's on your side and you feel like a nobody and you've got something burning about your music, but you don't have any of that validation coming back to you, how do you actually kind of reach out? Like, what would be your strategy if you were starting out now that you could pass on to an artist in any genre?
Well, if you see something that you believe in, stick to what your gut's saying. That is something I've learned. If you have a gut feeling that tells you go that way, follow it. And then if you find people on the way of what your gut feeling is saying, then connect them to your idea, see if they want to follow on or not. And what I've also learned is that sometimes times of trouble are temporary. They're always temporary, and you'll always get through it because there's always an alternative on the other side. It's always the way might split into left, right, up or down, but there's always a way of continuing to do things. So I've had several moments. Actually, I had 2 moments where I discovered that even being connected or being neglected from record companies or being neglected from publishers or publishers signing you and then not doing anything, I discovered that, I can still write down a song. I can play it for myself and I don't have to tell anybody, for example, that this song exists. And even if someone would ask me, I would go, no, that song doesn't exist, but it exists for me because I wrote the song. And it gave me the validation of understanding that I am not dependent on the exterior to create something beautiful for the sake of creating it. So that is one thing.
So that's a kind of rugged self-reliance then.
Yeah, and also keeping in your mind why you create things. You create things because you want to be famous and rich, and is that what your whole programming is? Is that where you want to go? Or do you create things because you think that you could make something better? You could create something that will help society, that maybe solves a problem as well. Because the problem I'm trying to solve is giving people access to classical music that would normally never go into a theater. They'd never go into an opera. They'd maybe go to a musical, or most likely go to a musical, but they never sit through a Wagner opera. They'd never want to see the Meistersinger from Nuremberg, which is a 6-hour thing to sit through with 3 Prosecco breaks, you know? So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to solve the problem where classical music is missing momentum and is not reaching people to stay in existence, basically. Because classical music is fighting to stay alive. So that's what I'm trying to do. And then just staying connected to where you come from. That's kind of one of those moments I had. Yeah.
And burning for it, right?
Yeah, trying to keep that, even if the wind is strong and even if the rain is battering down on that fire, because you'll go through those moments very often. Actually, it's still important to keep that flame burning. I have had so many situations where I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to just stop doing it. And just this is enough. I mean, the pandemic obviously was one of those moments. For a lot of musicians, for a lot of creatives, where everyone was like, okay, I've had it. I'm just, I've got children, I've got maybe a family, I've got this, I've got that, I've got to pay all my bills, I've got my apartment, I've got, and I've been on the edge of trying to make ends meet anyway. So I'm just going to go and do something else. So the pandemic really did, tests a lot of people on if they really want to keep going or not. And I kind of had no choice because
that's what you do, right?
I kind of had no choice because I had built a company in 2019. I had set up my own record company after leaving Universal Music. I set up my own record company. Yeah. And so I didn't really have it was either I let it go to waste now and then do something else, or I try and dig through it and be stronger at the end of it. Yeah. So that's what I chose to do, without knowing that these kind of situations would come back again and again.
It's interesting because what's so interesting is we've flicked forward there into the future, and the thread that connects your old self to your new self is the sense of resilience and your capacity for self-reliance and the decision to go on. And I would definitely like to jump into the COVID situation, because I really think
you want to dump in. What's dumping?
No, but
hey man, I just had a cup of coffee. I'm going to go and dump in.
I knew it. Oh, dear. So I remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, you really started emerging as a leader, and it's very interesting because I know you went to that threshold.
That sounds very strange and very dangerous.
But so many people went to that point.
Not in a political way.
No, in a political way. But what I mean is that you went to the threshold of being at a really difficult point in your career where you had to walk, and it's like, right, on the one hand, there's the opportunity of, right, I've been doing this for years. I could walk away from it. This could be the time when I move away. Or I go deep, deep, deep in, and I take this on with all of my heart and all of my being. And during the pandemic, that's what you decided to do, and you started becoming something, as I see it, of actually a leader and a voice for artists who were suffering everywhere.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, I mean, it was really a situation where you either go forward or not. Mm-hmm. There's no real. I'm just going to sit. I mean, a lot of big artists just sat and did nothing. So, but that's a whole nother story that I could get into now.
Which is also, you can also empathize because people felt so flat, and a lot of people got very down. And there's just different ways of reacting to disaster, isn't there?
Yeah, but I meant like artists who officially don't have a financial challenging situation through this. So big major artists that didn't help their crews or teams get through all of this. I always tried to find ways to give my musicians work and people around me work. Came up with picnic concerts, for example, in the summer when we were allowed to have like 250 people out on picnic blankets. And I never gave, I would play shows in front of 800 to 1,000 people when I go on tour, but that's all we could do, right? We could only have 250 people. And I didn't care about having a lot of people in front of the stage. I cared about giving art, music, and people around me a chance to actually survive. So that's what I tried. That was my mission during the pandemic, to keep classical music and maybe a little bit of education on classical music alive, so people would have a thing to watch.
And people's spirits up, and your career going, and your crew's career
absolutely.
going up around it. I mean, Billy, I was working. I mean, it's interesting you say, we did this picnic concept where people were separated and the rest of it, but you were also doing live streaming concerts when there was on an unbelievable scale. I mean, but no people there, just the crew. And I was one of those very lucky people who benefited because I got enormous amount of work from you you're talking about during the heart of the pandemic, when you would be going to the government and saying, look, we need to do this to help people, and creating stuff when it was so hard to get anything. Right? And so I think it's just a little something that I'd like to say thank you for, because I was working on a project called The Isolation Diaries.
I remember.
Which is still actually emerging now finally into a documentary all these years later. But one of the ways I kept myself going during the pandemic was I didn't go to the government and take the government money. I had jobs from people like yourself who were finding a way to keep on going. And so I had a lot of work from you, and I remember all your team were like they were just so sort of grateful for these opportunities, and it was kind of like an amazing time. I mean, it was
remember we did the live stream thing, but we also made that Hallelujah Leonard Cohen cover video in Dresden, where we had access to all of these almost deserted places, Albrechtsberg, and a huge stadium that we had all to our own. For example,
had the Dresden football stadium all to ourselves.
Yeah, so
it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was
a beautiful video. Yeah,
it's a beautiful video, and sometimes it's just about making things happen, and from the chaos and the problem, creating an opportunity to keep going. So I never cared if there's a lot of people in front of the stage for a moment like that, or I never had an ego like that. And even to fast forward now, I just had like a huge tour that I finished. I played in spring 2023. I played in Munich in front of 450 people, but in fall I scaled my business in Munich and I played in front of 1,100. So, and that's only 6 months later, proving what we'll probably talk about later a little more. But I never really cared if there's a lot of people or not. I always put the cause in the center of why I'm doing things. And obviously, the economic background has to be okay, so you can go out and do it and everyone gets paid. But
but you make those opportunities happen. In the pandemic, there was no opportunity.
Yeah,
and
there was
still found a way.
In Germany, we were all super, super lucky because the state did say, here's money.
Right. Yeah.
And everyone was complaining about all kinds of stuff. But I was
relative to other places, it was very well organized, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really well organized. The money was kind of on time, more or less. Okay, it took like 3 months, but it didn't take a year or half a year.
And there was money.
And there was money. I mean, they actually tried to keep parts of the economic part of Germany alive, and that is something that Italy didn't see, or Spain didn't see, the Portuguese didn't see it. So it's really important to always keep like your head open to what the situation was like, and everyone got to stay home, and everyone got to enjoy still having their television.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's always about it's always about taking opportunities and creating something more powerful from that. And to be honest, I mean, we've got the Christmas season coming up right now. Videos and photo footage from back then is actually being used now to promote these shows, just because it's beautiful content and it's timeless content to use for all of these things.
Well, I think that's a really important point, because I think quite often as an independent artist, when you're creating something, so often you're on the edge, okay, because you're on the edge financially and you don't have the record company, and you're trying to push yourself to be the best that you can be, and you're trying to make the best music video you've ever made, or some type of bit of content, or some wacko art project idea that you've got. And the thing is, one of the things that often makes you draw back from those ideas, you're thinking, well, if I just put it all down and then I put it out and it's sort of released to the crickets of the internet, that void, that silence. But what you have to remember sometimes is, if every time you do something on that level, like you did during the pandemic, you can repurpose it and you can reuse it. And then that's what part of the way that you build your identity and your brand, by aspiring to make these wonderful projects.
Absolutely.
So it's funny. So the money isn't actually just about the time when you put it down, because you can actually start reusing it in so many wonderful ways nowadays.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's the golden age of the creatives right now. It's like the golden age of marketing. The last 10 years have been the golden age of marketing. And now it's the golden age of the artists and the creators. There's so many ways to reach so many people just by using your phone, whatever your phone is. And you can create something that today no one will know, and tomorrow hundreds of thousands or millions of people have seen. If you understand how algorithms work and how platforms work. Some platforms are good for you, some other platforms don't work as well for you. And if you understand kind of how the platforms work, you can be living off of your art within a month.
Well, I really want to contextualize for this, people. So because one of the most amazing things that I find that I've loved and learned from you about is connecting this back to the Universal story. Because we need to let's just give people the perspective, because you have this wonderful story where you were signed by Universal, and so let's go back to that. But then these days you've created your own business, and you've created an absolutely different type of model off your own back as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, but still within the music business and still as an artist. So I really want to go back to that, because it will lead on to content creation. It will lead on to how you go about the digital economics, all these facets, which not many people have the authority and the knowledge which you can speak about on those subjects. But I think just to give people the context is very important. So let's just take it quickly back to Universal. So then you've got your RTL involved, you've got the album, you go back to Universal.
It couldn't be more major business. It's like you've got the largest TV station in Germany, you've got like the third or fourth largest music market in the world, you've got the biggest record company in the world, and all of these big companies are in place, and all of these people are, who have worked for the biggest artists in Germany. They're all working with you.
And so they
as it
suddenly
seems.
come in. So they were suddenly going for it when you went back in with RTL, right?
Exactly, right. They were all like, there was the CEO from Universal Music, the head of Universal Music. He started meeting with us. He called us. I remember my producer and I, we were having wine, and we were having a lot of red wine. And he called us up and he was like, you guys have to come with us. You guys have to come with us instead of Sony Music. Please do. And we're going to do everything.
So you had a bidding war, essentially.
Yes, it was a bidding. It was a bidding war. And
What was the feeling like? You know, you've been working all that time. You've cut your teeth going out in the world as a kid, going all around the place.
Well, it's
developing your
literally
talent.
that is literally what you've always dreamed about as a teenager
And
when
you'd
you
also
picked
been
up the
through the
guitar and you were
rejection.
like, and you've
Yeah.
been through the rejection, but for some reason it didn't feel surreal or anything. It didn't feel like it didn't, there wasn't this eureka moment or anything. It was like I sat there with my producer and we had pizza and a glass of wine, and the director, the boss of Universal Music calls us up and he's like, you guys have to do it. And then we sat next to each other and we said, okay. Because the deals were kind of the same with Sony Music and Universal Music. But what we didn't know back then is there was like a higher plan in place between the TV station and the record company, which is okay because I totally benefited off of that. So
Certainly from the brand and the artist growth and recognition, I would take it.
yes, exactly. To a certain point, which I'm going to explain a little later on when we get into what I do now. But so it couldn't have been more major business. It was like the biggest major company. It was the biggest TV station ever, and all of the mechanisms that you would use as these kind of entities that were working in the music business. So we did that for 3 albums, I think. And from the first tour on, I played venues that would be 1,000 people, and we would have a good time. So after 3 albums, I kind of noticed that as a concept artist, the mechanisms would start flatten off. Concept artists don't really work for a long time, as I noticed. I looked at other concept
interesting.
artists as well. So it's really, people get, there's like this niche that you go into and then it kind of gets less after a while, at least in that niche.
So you have impact, you become hot, but then the fall off is very
Exactly.
sudden.
Yeah, we sold more than 100,000 copies of my first album within 12 months. The album went gold. We had like this gold award dinner as well that the record company paid for.
All the stuff you dream of.
Everything all of it. The gold awards at home. It's on the wall and everything.
Did Gizmo eat it?
No,
yet,
it's
not
high
yet.
up.
It's
No,
high
he didn't. Yeah. So that's kind of what was there. And then 2019, after my 3rd studio album, I had the possibility to kind of sneak out of the contract. And that's what I did. So, because I was noticing the power was getting less and less. RTL was having less and less momentum because they weren't earning enough off of those kind of collaborations to keep the vibe alive within their own company. So it was starting to, the start was great, but then it started to kind of fall apart and all of those things that make that kind of construction worthwhile. So I was noticing, okay, so RTL is not able to give me enough ad space anymore because of their internal problems they were starting to have, because they weren't making enough revenue off of that kind of a concept. So I was starting, everything that was good for me started turning into something that wasn't good for me anymore. So I had the chance to leave. Built my own record company, put that up.
So just before you get to building your own record company, what was your sort of like? Did you feel? What did you go through emotionally at that point? Like, did you feel crushed, or did you feel a sense of opportunity? Were you angry, or was it just really philosophical? What was the? Because I think at these important moments, you always you go to a threshold, and there's a decision where it's like, okay, if I'm going to go back into this, I have to really find the energy of spirit to do it again. And sometimes that's very difficult, or you have a moment before that where you can feel dark and pessimistic and sad. Or were you just on the front foot? How did it happen for you?
No, I think what I did was I just followed my gut with that. I don't remember having a sad moment about it, and I just remember being very clear at what my situation was, and I analyzed what was happening, and I didn't talk to other people either. And so the producer that I worked with,
it's a massive decision to step away from a major label.
It is, and I don't recall actually making that business decision on the basis of talking to other people. I really just kind of, because the producer that I was working with and who I had drawn a lot of information from and who I'd learned from massively how to do things, what was normal, how does talking to a major label work? What do you expect when you're talking to a major label? How do you deal with them saying no all the time or not investing money into things? I also split from that producer as well, who was the exclusive producer for the project, because that's what he kind of put in the whole deal for himself, understandably. But I kind of left that situation as well, so I couldn't talk to him about what's the next best step to make.
Yeah.
So I kind of just analyzed everything, and then I went with the flow and with my gut feeling what to do. So I set up the record company in 2019, and I then tipped over into the pandemic.
So it was actually only shortly before.
Yeah.
So it must have been around the time that I met you that you were starting
almost,
the company. Crazy.
almost.
I didn't realize. I thought it was actually already going for a year or so before, but it must have been very concurrent.
2019. I set up the record company part of my company. I already had a company before that because I was doing all kinds of other things as well. But in 2019, I set up the record company, Red Raving Music, and then we got together. I think. Was it like spring or summer or something like that? Yeah. So
when you decided to set up a company, what were your thoughts? What was your vision right at the start? Because you'd obviously had all the help from RTL and Universal, which is an amazing moment in our artist's career when you get to that point. Obviously, you've got the powers that be, and you've got the advertising, and you've got all the whole strength. But then suddenly, even if you've got a reputation, which you did as an artist, and sold, you had a much more than a beginning. You were a well-known artist, but equally, that even if you're a well-known artist, to pivot and you need the money and the capital to put into the marketing, and suddenly you don't have any of that like you did before.
Yeah.
So what were your sort of pillars that you went into with? What were your aspirations as you set out a business? What were your hopes? What were your worries? Just your state of mind and your plan at that stage.
I didn't have any of that. No, seriously, I didn't have a plan. I didn't know how to run a music label. I didn't know all of the specifics around what it means to have a record company. There's like industry standards, the royalties you pay to GEMA, the GVL behind it. There's like a gazillion things that you have to do to be able to run a record company. I didn't know any of that.
That's all the bureaucracy before you even start talking about the vision.
Exactly. So, and then I didn't have a vision for my record company at all. I was just like, okay, so my brand is not worth anything to a major label anymore, not to Sony Music, not to Universal Music. So the only way to go is to do my own thing if I want to keep doing it. And I made the decision to keep going and to keep doing this thing. And that's when I chose to do a live album, my first live album, Alive 5 Years. And that was the first album I produced myself for my own record company, and used videos that, created videos that Universal Music back then didn't want to pay for. I still remember this big Ode an die Freude thing that I wanted to record at one of my live shows. And I told them, look, I have this budget it'll cost me €4,500 to do it. Would you finance it? Before I split from Universal Music, that was still on my tour in January 2019. And they said, no, we don't see any future in investing into this, and why would we do it and anything? They already knew that they were gonna not continue working with me back then, because they knew that the TV station already had said that they don't have spaces anymore to do these kind of collaborations anymore. So they said, if you want to go ahead and do it, and you can do with it whatever you want to do, right? And so I literally back then paid for what then later became viral, and my own videos that I until today, from 2019 till today, use in social media performance marketing, and that has this one video.
Ode an die Freude.
Ode an die Freude. That's the flash mob part of it. But Ode an die Freude as a live rock concert, that video from 2019, that has sold more than 30,000 tickets by now, just using this video.
Wow.
So that's another very important lesson learned, is that if a major label says no, it still might mean nothing. Because if your gut feeling says this is what we have to do, because on stage, singing the song, seeing what people love, hearing what people love, hearing people sing and connect to music, that is something that you as an artist is able to do. A major label used to be able to do because they had scouts, because they had people that would go out and talk to artists, because they would have people that would hang out in the bars and the clubs and see how people would connect to different kinds of things happening on stage. They don't have all of that anymore. So you as an artist is really the creative producer of your brand, and you are the one who will know what connects with the audience and what not, if you are able to detach yourself from your artistry romantic kind of situation, which can be in the way.
Of course, but that's a very interesting thing about trusting your instincts, because the A&R isn't out there like it used to be, and doesn't have that doesn't have the same feelers.
No, but there's another person-like thing that also starts with A, who is your actual A&R and scout, which is an AI. So these days you can just go ahead and leverage algorithms and those things to do the work a record label would have to use to do, which is finding your space, finding where the pockets of people are that will love what you do. Right? And it's for free. You download it on your phone, and it's literally access to the possibility of finding the right people for free. Right?
So let's now talk about this. So the progression from you going out and starting this business, so knowing nothing, but I think it's fair to say you had good instincts. You had a good sense for networking.
Yeah.
You had a wide panoramic view of the industry. You'd been inside the heart of the beast in a major label. You'd worked with RTL. You had some nice contacts, but you were also being very bold and going out on your own. But you didn't know the business side. You were a standard artist, like so many of us feel like this year I'm sort of learning more and more about business and entrepreneurship. Also sort of reassessing my creative life and my career. And that's such an exciting journey, and that's something that I'm trying to share through this podcast. You know, everything that I learn, it's like that sort of building public idea. But you've gone from this point where you really were a starter out in business, and since then, in the 4 years since then, you've scaled both the business, but also your knowledge and your understanding of marketplace and SEO and advertising and how to reach people and content creation and building other people in your team and getting all of this different stuff, Billy. And I think we should just sort of let's break some of this stuff down. Because what I think would be of enormous value is for independent artists out there who, let's say they don't have the opportunity of a major label deal and they know that they have to do it on their own and they just don't know how to do it. How did you do it? What's been your process? What have you learned? Let's go.
Well, the process was coming from this whole fixed old industry mechanism, knowing how all of those things work, and being forced to find out what the new reality is. And
so what is the state of the music industry?
Or what's the future? Or what should music industry be for an artist like myself in my situation who has come from major industry? How should that look? How should it look for an artist who already sells merch, who already sells tickets, who has kind of a brand out there, which is being turned down by everyone because it's not working anymore. That's literally what happened.
And not
right?
working means not selling what it used to do, because it was still selling.
Yeah.
But the interesting that you did is that you didn't decide, right, it's not been selling, I'm going to pack it in, start something else again. You decided to start pivoting, bringing in.
Well, I decided taking what had been created and developing it from its brand development. So we began with myself wearing a mask. No one knew who I was, being like the Phantom of the opera and classical music kind of person, and then developing it into people being able to communicate with me because I would not wear a mask anymore and do those kind of things.
And that was about bringing in your own name.
And that was bringing in my own name, but that was also the time of the pandemic where people would want to have faces and personalities that they could relate with, that they could. So many people wrote me what their problems are and what the issues are they're dealing with. So everyone wanted someone that would listen to them, but also would maybe write songs that they could solve their problems with. So there's like a whole connection thing that happened through the pandemic for myself and for everyone who was joining in to listen and to watch. And I decided to figure out how to solve the problem as an artist of warehousing. What do I do with merchandise in a pandemic? Why, as an artist, am I considered something physical instead of something digital? How can I look at companies that have digitized my business, such as Spotify, for example? They've come along and disrupted the whole way we listen to music, we look at music, and they're trying to do it with ads, which they're not very successful at, but they're trying to change their business model up a little bit. So how do I do what other companies have been doing with my creative work and with the creative work that musicians have put out there? How do I kind of internalize that process? How do I make that work for myself and cut out middlemen at the same time who are taking a good percentage of the cake? So everyone out there who's listening, they're like, yeah, but you had your brand set up and you've already got like thousands of people who have loved you and people have bought like 200,000 of your album. Yes, that's right. But all of those people had left me because my brand wasn't the same anymore, and because people would not enjoy that concept for a long time. So I really set out without any marketing budget. I set out without the power of RTL, without the TV ads, and that's kind of like pulling radio from an artist who is known through radio, like just pulling the plug and saying, we're not going to put you on radio anymore. But that's like 99.9% of how you get the voice out that you've got a new song.
And I guess you also didn't have any of the data that you could have used for marketing.
Yeah,
obviously you had your Instagram followers and your Facebook followers, but you don't have the actual data of who's buying the actual CDs and so on for actually
you never gain you never gain any of the data. You never gain any of, you kind of gain a knowledge of, male, female, above 40 or 18 or whatever the demographics is. Exactly. So that kind of stuff. But you never really gain access to audiences on Facebook or Instagram. Of course, you could do like the normal thing you would do, but not in the extent, not the way I'm doing it now. So basically what I do now is I've taken e-commerce mechanisms and I told myself, what if music industry was e-commerce? What if there's no difference? What if email marketing is part of all of it? What if SEO, performance marketing on Instagram and Facebook for others, it might be TikTok. What if all of these mechanisms that big brands such as Adidas and Nike and Volkswagen and all of these big companies use e-commerce, or shoe companies such as Allbirds, for example, use all of these mechanisms, but why are we so why do we not want to use those mechanisms in music industry? Our product is digitized. We can reach all of these people through social media, but we're not being taught to use all of these systems that are highly efficient and give the musician, the creative, and its team the power to actually sell quicker in larger amounts and be able to scale their business. And what we're seeing right now, and this is only the beginning, but what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a multitude of artists popping out from all over the place, showing us things that we've never seen before, and suddenly filling arenas, even if it's just locally, because right now there's like local heroes that are starting to sell like 2,000 tickets for something, and you've never heard of them before. They've never been on TV, they've never been on radio, they've never been. So there's like so many different things happening right now that are so beautiful.
Absolutely. But I think one of the things that I find very interesting about how you're doing it, Billy, is that, well, sure, you have TikTok artists who become very big on TikTok doing their own thing, and that's wonderful.
They might not sell tickets. They might,
and some of them doing absolutely amazing. So I'm certainly, I'm just, that's one way of doing it. People that have leveraged social media, a lot of younger people having a really developed sense of how to use social media, and that's one way. But I think what's very particularly interesting about you is how you are taking ideas and secrets that the business world and e-commerce has known about for years and years and years. And you're like, well, why can't I leverage those ideas and start learning about those ideas and start implementing and using them in my own career as an artist? And for me, that's what I find interesting about that, is that it's a much more relatable and sustainable potential model than, let's say, a TikTok artist, because, okay, you might have a TikTok artist who gets to 2 million views, but for every TikTok artist, you've got hundreds of thousands of independent artists that can't make a dent on social media, but they do have the potential to build a business that's an effective little business, thinking about the sort of 1,000 true fans model, where you reach people one by one and you give them real value, and each one of those people buys 100 euros or dollars or pounds or whatever it is of your merchandise and your albums and the things you're putting out in the world, and then suddenly you've got $100,000 a year business and a very viable career where you can give your gift to the world and you can give your message and the rest of it. And so that's why I want to go into some of the levers that you pull. So for instance, and I mean, we can just sort of break them down as they come up, but for instance, one of the things that was, might seem obvious to some people, but for me just like blew my mind when I met you. I was like, this guy's using Shopify. I was like, so I'm like that dude who's always been out at the back of the van, and I've got all the t-shirts, and I go out on tour, and then I get home and I've sold half of the t-shirts, and it's like, oh my God, I've got to put them into the basement, and they go down there and they start rotting, and then you can't sell them again, and then you just wish you could get to, and your whole life is just consumed by t-shirts. And you go out and you use Shopify. So tell us about your model and about how you're using print on demand, and just give us a sense of that.
So what I obviously did is I did a huge load of research before I started any of this, and that is basically what I built all of this on. So I actually looked at the KISS online shop, which is I don't know if probably a lot of the listeners know KISS,
of course,
the band KISS, who mastered online sales in their shop. So that's built on Shopify, or used to be built on Shopify. I looked at 30 Seconds to Mars, which is a little more modern in sense of a Shopify. I bought something there. I bought something with Green Day. I bought something with KISS, just to see what happens when I buy. And
so you're testing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just research, right? And I looked at what they were doing, and I saw that KISS was doing it in a more conservative way than 30 Seconds to Mars was doing it. And I looked at the systems that they were using, and I decided to go with Shopify and email marketing Klaviyo, and decided to put it all together. So basically, what you're doing is you're deciding to use technology that has brains. So it's not only a shop software, but it's run by AI in the background. Klaviyo, as an email marketing service, is run by AI in the background. It has predictive algorithms. It can find out when someone is likely to make a purchase in the future and how much money that person might spend. So you can go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to build buckets or segments, but I'm going to build buckets, and those buckets will be filled by these systems that do all of that work for you on a passive matter, right? So while I'm sitting here and we're talking about all of this stuff, my system in the background is generating revenue. It's going after people who have maybe put something in a cart, they've abandoned it. All of these things that we know from buying shoes, for example.
So you can return to them because they could have bought something they didn't, but then you can target them online.
Yeah.
So, and that's Klaviyo. That's one of
my
the...
dog's changing fur. So
So
it's hilarious how much fur he's changed.
For anyone listening,
it's a catastrophe.
Billy is mopping up the fur that Gizmo, who's now sitting behind Billy on the chair, and is basically kicking Billy off
He's
of the chair.
He's completely kicking me off the chair.
And Billy is trying to get the fur
He
off
always
him
does.
for the video. So then you're...
Maybe I'll just shave him.
But so then, rather than having these thousands of T-shirts in the basement, you're actually, it's print on demand, right?
That's another pillar of it. So in the pandemic, I also that was actually the first thing I thought about, because I was like, okay, so I'm not selling tickets. In the pandemic, no one knows how long it's going to go. This is really early on pandemic. No one knows how long all of this is going to be, and so merchandise is pretty much the way to go and find people to, sell merchandise to. So I also didn't have a lot of money. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I looked up all kinds of print-on-demand companies who would also do fulfillment, because I did have like a little bit of stock. And I was like, maybe I could send them my stock and they could fulfill it for me. And came up with, found out that there's this company, Printful, and thought I would start using them. So there's Printful, there's Printify, there's all kinds of print-on-demand companies out there. But back in the time, I thought that this is the best way to go. So I started working with them. Created within 3 months. I think 4 or 5 different kinds of collections, and based them
Cups,
on
T-shirts,
blankets, hoodies, leggings, sports bras. So a huge variety of things that you would maybe not even dare to have produced because you wouldn't sell them on tour, right? So
and you usually wouldn't even associate with an artist, let alone a classical crossover artist.
Absolutely. But I was like, okay, so why should people buy at H&M, C&A, or wherever else they would buy, at Zara, How can I get those people to be interested in buy things with my brand? Because if they're connected to me on a very emotional level because they love my music, would they maybe then prefer to buy things in my shop instead of going out to H&M and buying their leggings there? And so Printful's quality is great. I then ordered a bunch of stuff to see what it's like. Had friends of mine test it and touch it and see what it's like.
Sorry to interrupt. Is that going? Are they buying straight from Printful, or are they going to Shopify? And
it's white label. Yeah.
So sorry, you're connecting Shopify and Printful. How does that actually work technically? Just for people that would like to know.
I mean, it's basically.
Yeah, give us a 1 minute masterclass for anyone that just knows nothing about this.
So Shopify is a shop system which can also be your homepage, right? So if you want to go and visit the darktenor.com, for example, which is my webpage, my homepage, you will literally be in my shop right away. And
it's designed on Shopify.
It's designed on Shopify. So that's all.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, Shopify does all kinds of things. You can build blog posts. You can build. A lot of people just use it for shop purposes, but you could really use it for everything that you as an artist do.
So you're cutting out the sort of pain point of having to bring people from here to there to there. You're getting them straight into the place that's backing your career as an artist.
So what KISS and and 30 Seconds to Mars did was they have their websites and then they have their shop outside of that, right? And I was like, but why would you want to do that? Don't you just want to have them in one place? You know, people would come and see information about you as an artist. They would stay on your website. You would then offer them maybe music, for example, because that's where it all starts, right? So why not do it all in one place? And you've got Shopify, and then Shopify has an app store similar to the app store you have for your phone. They have applications that you can just go ahead and install, and then it installs without having to code or without having to do any kind of fancy stuff most of the times, right? So I went ahead and I installed the Printful application, and that then syncs with Printful as a company. And so the exciting thing about Printful is no matter where you are worldwide, and I'm not being paid by Printful or anything, but that's just a system I use. Printful then, no matter where you are in the world, makes your leggings depending on where you live. So if a fan in North America, for example, were to order a leggings, it would be made in Mexico or North America and be sent out from there to that fan. If someone in Germany, for example, orders, it's made in Latvia and then sent out from Latvia to Germany. So they've decentralized the production, and they've shortened shipping costs. They've lowered that and shortened shipping times as well. So people will get their things quicker in shorter time, and then also preserve energy and not damage, the planet as much as you would when you're sending it from China.
So you're building. So this is the beginning of an ecosystem that you're creating. So you're starting.
So it was merchandising first, because obviously in the pandemic I needed to think about how I'm going to make money. So that was one of the things. The other thing was live streams. How can I create a system where people would want to watch a live stream and pay me for watching it? And I used to ask 10 euros per person to be able to watch it. And at some point I was, why don't I make it for free and give people the choice if they think it's worth watching or not? So I went over to doing these weekly. Then later, when the pandemic stopped, I did it bi-weekly, and now it's once a month.
So this is just you at home?
Yeah, just me at home. With my guitar, electric guitar, and then I've got playbacks from the live shows I do.
So you're doing a full gig, and it's on playback. Basically.
Yeah, and it's 1 hour.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's I sing to it, so the music behind it. Obviously, I don't have like a full band, but
the production is essentially a real, like the sound of a real production.
No,
it's massive and all. Full Dark Tenor thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so the fun part about it is people get to choose what I play.
So that's the interaction with the audience.
Yeah, and that then again connects me to performance marketing, because I was also, so you're building this e-commerce system into your music industry career. How do I actually make people find out about what I'm offering? And it's always about the offer. It's always about a cold, friendly offer to people who don't feel they want to buy something, but they want to be part of the music you're making or the community you're generating a higher intent with, So I have campaigns out that tell people, hey, if you want to watch my live stream, it's for free, and you also get to choose what I sing. So head on over to thedarktenor.com, choose your song. The songs changes, obviously. They change from live streams to live streams, so people get to choose different kinds of songs. And I keep them active on my website. So
that's the exciting thing that's getting people bubbling along.
Getting people excited for what you're doing, and also keeping the brand awareness high that you exist, because people get mobbed by all kinds of different content.
And if you're going on tour once a year, that's not enough to keep people excited.
Yeah,
right?
so you were really that's why Spotify says release tracks every 4 weeks, release tracks every 2 weeks, release track every day, release tracks every hour. So it's to just keep going out and keep making people see you all the time. So this is a different way of doing it, and
And the thing that I find interesting is that with the music, okay, so a lot of artists would look at this and they'd be thinking, well, my music is the thing. That's the thing that I care about, and everything else is cheapening. But I think one of the things that I find very interesting about what you're doing is you're recognizing that, okay, of course money can still be made from music, but you're using music, which is your principal love and which is your why, and the why behind what you do, and that's the artist, Billy Andrews. Yeah. But you're essentially, in some ways, using that as a flagship or a badge or the PR thing for bringing people into the ecosystem. Yeah. This isn't cynical. This is just how can I make a business so that the music is attracting people, but knowing that you can't make money from music in the same way that one used to be able to do, because it's like, well, who makes money from Spotify? Unless you're a very, very big artist. So you are then using this that's getting people to come in, and you're being very truthful about your music, but by putting the music out, you're creating an ecosystem that means that you can sustain yourself and keep on working and being a musician. So it's just, I wanted to make the point, because it's easy for, I think, that sort of true artist going, no, but it's this pure thing. I don't want to compromise it with all this SEO and search and branding. I always hated all of this stuff as an artist. And what interests me is like, well, no. If you have the courage to think differently about it and to build up these systems and this ecosystem behind the thing that you most love, well, everything else becomes not only a way that you can distribute your message in the world, but you can also distribute your message while making a living and selling cool stuff as well to people that they actually want, and it makes them happy.
The thing is. If you're an artist who is artsier than I am, you dig into your music differently than I would, and you're really more in the indie spectrum of it, you could still use all of these things to put yourself in front of the eyes and ears of the people. And if you put these systems together in a correct way and make these systems talk to each other and give each other information back and forth, it's going to benefit your music, because not only the word independent, I hate the word independent for the music industry, because it's somehow it makes you smaller than being with a major artist, right? But with a major label, it's like it makes no sense, because that would mean that being a major artist would mean you're not being independent. Being independent is something good, but in this sense, it makes you smaller for some reason.
And you're saying there's an opportunity in there?
No, so you're your own major. You have to be your own major in the end. You have to be your own priority, and it's nothing else than building a company. So subconsciously, while you're making music, you're gathering friends, you're gathering family, you're gathering friends of the friends, and there's more families coming, and you've got like 10 and then maybe 20, then maybe 50 people coming to a local show. You're building a company without even wanting it in that sense. Yeah. So
that's the interesting point.
So if you kind of, a lot of artists are afraid of making it a company and saying this is a business. Yeah. But if you want to make music and you want to survive off of it and you want to make money and those things, you're going to have to build a system around it. And the times have never been better and never been cheaper, actually, through the pandemic as well, than now, to generate that system, to set it up and let it work for you. And all you have to do is to continue making the music you love and let the system find people that love that music.
I think it's a lovely point of view. And something I just add into there, Billy, is that for a lot of artists, musicians, we come to music, okay, either there's a talent or there's a great suffering. You're trying to figure out
or both.
Something, and often, yes. I just had the suffering.
Or through your talent, you make people suffer because it's so bad. That is also another one.
But what I mean is that you gravitate towards some music because you're in great pain, or you've got something that you're going through, or something that you're trying to figure out, and something that you're trying to express to the world. And something that I love the idea about how you're speaking of, and I'm arriving at this point much later in my career as an artist, is that the setting up is a part of the way that you work through the problems that you have. It's one of the ways. Part of the journey of adulthood and of growing and expressing your potential is not just resolving yourself spiritually, but it's like, how am I in the world? How can I make deep foundations in myself and be participant in the game of life, which means earning my way, taking responsibility for my life, and making mechanisms where I can do what it is that I want to do in this world with all my heart, and building a system that works irrespective of what the gatekeepers of the world say. And this is what I find so inspiring about how you've done it. And I've been also looking at the hip hop artists and at different industries. I'm very interested in what the hackers are doing, what the coders are doing, and what other solopreneurs are doing, and exchanging all these ideas. And you're at this very unique point between as a creator artist and a solopreneur, and there's so much to teach in there. So one of the things that I remember you telling me about was that you also decided to do, it was a online marketing course at the point where you're starting your business.
Yeah.
So can you tell me where did you get that? What was that? And what did it teach you?
Well, at some point I read in because I knew that I was going to have to learn about marketing on social media and how all of those things work. And I read on Carl Hitchborn at the time in Music Business Worldwide, which is one of the largest music business kind of information online things that you can read. Carl Hitchborn is his name. And he had quite a lot of success, and there was a huge article about him, how he did things, because he started all of this, not even coming from music, but he started all of this in the UK and sold a bunch of tickets for a band called The Hana, who are now signed. I don't know if they're still signed there, but they're now signed by Capitol Records. And really basically back then did what I'm doing now on a smaller scale and with other tools. But so I went into that. I did like a few courses, and we all know there's a million online courses out there that you can do, and master classes and all of that to learn about all of these things. In the end, they'll all tell you the same probably, and some of them are better or not or whatever. There's like a gazillion of them out there, and I started learning about them. And at some point, Carl Hitchborn called me up because I was forwarding all of my numbers from my Facebook ads, and he said, "Those are some of the best numbers I've ever seen. How are you doing that?" And then it comes back to that video content that I produced that Universal didn't want to pay for, that I had created myself then. And he said, "Those are great numbers. Let me teach you a little more." So I really learned a big deal through him. And after I had learned enough, and he, for some weird reasons, disappeared completely and left a lot of musicians with their money on his bank account, basically. Yeah, he completely disappeared. I still have his number. I don't know where he went. But he lived in California with his I don't know if it's his wife or girlfriend and his kids, and he completely disappeared. And I have no clue
but you
where he
learned
went.
particular things from
I
him.
learned a lot from him, and I also learned that this is the way to go. So that is exactly what I did, and I just progressed from there. Yeah. So
So the lesson is, okay, even if the music is consuming, you get down with the actual business of learning the marketing.
Yeah.
And so I know that you're using...
What I actually learned, and that was something that's really important, is the neglecting part of the Universal Music situation and major label industry and all of those things. The word no that you would always hear has completely turned into a word yes. So there's no more no in setting up your system and advertising it to people. The word no doesn't exist anymore because the systems will go and look for people that say yes all the time, that want to see what you're creating. So your job in the end is obviously to feed the beast and feed the machine that you've created, but to understand that the word no doesn't have to exist anymore. It can actually be a pure yes, and then all you do is you go after doing what you do best, and that's music. Creating music for the people that say yes to what you're doing, and the algorithms will go and find those people for you.
And so going on from there, so a lot of artists feel that Facebook is dead, right? And so I just want to kind of like pivot into how you use Facebook within your business.
I've sold 30,000 tickets through Facebook. Facebook's not dead.
So this is one of the things that I wanted to point. Exactly, but this is what because I know this. I know that you're using it, and the thing is that how you're using it is so unique and different because you're obviously thinking it much more from a digital economics point of view and a marketing point of view. And a lot of artists don't even bother to have a Facebook anymore. Now, when I went and I did the last video for you on your last tour last month, we went down to Dresden. We had the 10 years, the Dark Tenor Jubilee show, and it was wonderful. And it was sold out. It was like over 1,000 tickets. A really fantastic night. And I came up to you and we were having a chat afterwards. You know, Jim, it was 90% new people coming to my shows. So explain to me, because it doesn't make any sense to me that an artist.
I'm leaving. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That an artist who's not on a major label, who's not a first-time artist, can be bringing in 90% new people in a show over 1,000 people. It's ridiculous. How the hell do you do it?
So this kind of so I set up the major my own record company. I then went into the pandemic. I then did all of these online courses, which is randomly just any of those courses out there, and started understanding what it is. And I then, in October 2022, started advertising my tour that was set to go on tour in December 2022, so 2 months before the tour actually started. And I had per week 20 tickets being sold for 10 shows in a December timeframe. And I was like, wow, is this actually going to work? Or am I just going to... I was like a millisecond to canceling the tour because I wasn't selling tickets. We just came out of the pandemic and no one was selling tickets. No one was going to see anything. All of the music, everyone was still afraid, do we have to wear masks or not or whatever, you know? And I wasn't selling tickets. And I decided then, it was the same moment I had when I set up the label to leave Universal Music. I said, and the same moment I had when I set up my Shopify shop and set up all the merchandise and all those things, it was one sentence, and it was, and that was, don't half-ass it. And I was like, I was looking at it, and I was like, I am half-assing it. I'm not going for it. It is not a yes. It's kind of a no, and it's kind of a yes. It's in between. So I'm gonna say yes, and I started setting up campaigns. Took the videos that I had created and put $50 to it per day. And it suddenly started moving.
On Facebook?
On Facebook.
Instagram as well?
I tested both. So what you can do with Meta, Facebook and Instagram, is you can let the algorithm decide where to sell and where to find people that are willing to buy tickets. And I watched it for a while, and at some point I turned off the automatic placements and went for Facebook feed only. So because that's where it was selling best back then. It has changed to a great extent. Now it's also Instagram, but back then it was really Facebook. Like by far Facebook.
Well, no, I know because I've seen online. It's interesting because don't let me get in. Just carry on.
Right. So what I had then was with my booking agency, my former booking agency. They have like their own ticketing shop thing going on. They set up all of the shows. They set that up in their own ticket shop. We also had Eventim, CTS, all of the big major ticket platforms as well. But I optimized for ticket sales in this ticket shop from my booker. So I could take my Facebook pixel, technically what's happening, the Facebook pixel, which is basically, let's say it's paintball, and it's the color red. So I'd take the color red, I would put it on the homepage of that ticket shop, and everyone who would go there would be tagged with that color red. So Facebook, Instagram, Meta would know this person has been tagged with the color red. This is a person who has been on that website.
So Big Brother.
And we know, but you know what? No one's out there and cares about your data.
No, let's not get into the morality. Let's just talk about the
nobody's.
business.
No, I'm just trying to say there's not this one Meta person who's sitting there and he's looking at Jim. This is your phone number, and I'm going to go after you now. I'm going to give you a call.
They're all after you.
I'm going to give you.
You're incorrect.
I'm going to give you a call in 15 minutes, and then that person never calls. That's how Meta works. But. Yeah. So I decided to go for it and to put 50 euros to every city that I was marketing it on. So I was like, if you take Dresden, I would take Dresden, pull 80 kilometers around it and say, I want to show this ad to people who live in Dresden or 80 kilometers around Dresden. And the system would go and find people who like the video and who like the music. And this is something that is so beneficial for us artists because all of those brands out there, Nike and Adidas, they need to find ways to give their products emotion. It's a shoe. No one cares. It's a shoe. One of the Nike SEOs said when they brought in Michael Jordan, they said he wanted to go with Adidas back then, by the way. So when they brought in Michael Jordan, he said that for us, it's only a shoe, but it starts to be filled with life as soon as the athlete puts his foot in the shoe. So us being musicians, we don't need to emotionalize or build something around our product because what we create is exactly what other brands need to give their product an emotion. To give, I mean, this is your laptop right here. That doesn't have emotion. You're happy to use it, and now there's a fancy black, but it's not. It doesn't have emotions. It's a tool for you to use to create, to do things and create things. So, but we possess the power of emotion to sell a ticket and to sell tickets to people who spontaneously will decide, wow, that's awesome. I want to go and see that. So this is something we as musicians have. Maybe movies even have. It's like if you see something, that the arts has, visuals, audios has. So that is something we can use, and musicians aren't using it.
Right.
Right. So
you're saying don't be afraid to leverage
no
emotion.
Absolutely. It's like so all I did was I looked at Gizmo. I looked at I need a little bit of the chair for myself as well. Thank you very much. So oh my god, I've been sitting on one part of my butt and I fell asleep. so okay.
You'd be sitting at the most awkward angle. I'd be very
I was like
it's like you're so twisted up while chatting to Gizmo sleeping next to
everyone who's listening, you should go and watch the video wherever it is to see me.
There should be just a steady cam on Gizmo.
Right? There should be a Gizmo cam.
Yeah, Giz cam.
Yeah, so you've got the power of the emotion, and all I did was I didn't even put caption in it. I didn't say come and see my fancy show. It's going to be awesome. Go and buy your ticket now. I didn't put anything on it. I would just show the video, and then in the captions of the post of the ad, it would just say the date when it's happening and the city where it's going to happen, and then maybe a little bit of text to contextualize what it's about. And so what Facebook did or Meta did was their interest. I have to roll back a little bit. Their interest is to keep people on their platforms. The worst thing for them to happen is when you turn off your phone. That's the worst thing that can happen. Or you open a different app or whatever. That's the worst thing. They want to keep you there. They love retention. They want you to watch videos. They want you to look at posts or read blogs or whatever, or be in groups. They just want you on the platform. So when you're thinking about ads, show people, as an ad, show people a video that has performed really well on your profile. And that might not even be a video you consider as an ad. Maybe it's
So you use your own posting as testing.
Yes, exactly. You just look historically at what has worked well, like really worked well, and you try and find like a unicorn content piece of video.
So you're actually looking more at something that's emotional and it gets people excited, and then they can find the data or whatever it is you're trying to sell because they've been moved emotionally first. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
So the video doesn't necessarily have to link obviously to the thing that you're selling, i.e. a ticket or
if someone adapt, like for example, you could have like 3 videos that have worked really well. You could have like, for me, it's Ode an die Freude. And then now I have Christmas shows coming up. I noticed that Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen has always been a song that people have loved. So I've got 1 or 2 videos that have Hallelujah in it from live performances. And I just sold out a show. Just by showing people the video and by obviously telling Facebook to find people who are willing to make a purchase as well. Because that's what I'm telling Facebook. Go and find people who will be likely to purchase a ticket. So if you're in line with what you're doing as an artist and you're just showing people what they love anyway, and you're giving them a way to come to a concert. It's super efficient. You keep the people where they want to be. You're not selling something they don't want to have. You're not drop shipping a new mat to put into your shower so you don't slip and fall. You know, you could also do that.
But I bet you sell those as well, Billy.
Not yet, but it's actually a good idea. But you know, so you're not giving people something that they don't want, but you're actually finding people who love what you're showing, and they will then want to buy from your ticket shop. So I had my ticket shop. I was selling 20 tickets, rolling back again, selling 20 tickets per week for my shows in December 2022. And I scaled that without having the goal of scaling it that way. I scaled it from per week, 20 tickets to 200 tickets to 400 tickets to 600 to 800 tickets per week, and sold out all of my shows in December 2022 just by doing that.
And bringing in new people.
And bringing in, that was back then as well, 90% new people, because for some reason, the algorithm went for, what are you looking at my microphone?
It's always a bit squint, but it's good.
That's good. That's good. I'm going to just continue it like that. So for some reason, the algorithm did not go for people who had known me in the past. I still don't know why. The algorithm did not go for the people that had bought my records.
Well, presumably it's looking at people that love Ode an die Freude and Beethoven and thinking, well, they also like rock music as well. So you are suddenly in this position where you're targeting, or the Facebook targeting is going to people that are liking the interest, and you're getting a real result with that. And then suddenly, actually, you've only got 10% of your own audience, which you know to be a pretty sizable audience. So there's no reason to think why you can't scale again with the ticket sales in the next year. And then you're like really going into significant sales.
And then in the next year, in March 2023, I did the same. I repeated the same for that part of the tour and sold out those venues. We're talking venues between 800 and 1,000 people. And then there's like smaller venues with 450, but those are like 1 or 2 of them. And I then said, okay, I'd like to double my numbers in fall 2023, just a half year later after the March ones. So what I did in March then, 2023, was I closed the ticket shop on my this external shop. It's kind of like the 30 Seconds to Mars website, and then you've got like the ticket shop, right? And I was like, so what if I compile it all into one shop? So what if I sell my tickets on Shopify? It's all digital. It's all automatic system in the background. The tickets get sent out digitally, and I just optimize for my own shop and send all of the people there. And I did that, and I started that in March, and it exploded. And suddenly I was selling double size venues for the fall shows. And that's exactly what I just finished this year. So it's really... Incredible. It's looking at the data. I turned my business last year. Well, I could say it this way around. My business grew by 561% on an annual rate from 2022 to 2023. I've had a 63% hike in revenue.
And this is one of the things, is that things compound, and the hardest thing is to get to those points to start with. And I just like to say, for any musicians who are thinking about some of these ideas, or maybe being a bit overwhelmed, because obviously you're dumping a lot of information, because you're basically telling us about a 4-year journey, and you already had a deep experience of the music industry, having been with RTL and with Universal. But I think the point is that you start with one thing and you build on to the next. But it's about the idea that ambition doesn't have to be that you want to become a major label artist, or you need to get 1 million followers. These crazy things which are so...
I don't care about followers. Well, I don't care about not the person, but not about the number.
Well, this is what I mean. Is that those things, okay, you can have the luck and things can go well and you can get those things. But it's about saying, okay, how can I build a structure for what I'm doing that's actually very viable as anyone who really wants to go out and is serious about their art. And of course you have to learn your art and know that you're getting to a stage where you're doing serious work. That's a given. But what you're talking about, creating a system, and I think for people who are just interested in those ideas, you just get started. You just start going into a direction and you start learning along the way. And I think that's what's so inspiring about your story, Billy, is of course now at this point, we're going into so many of these different things and talking a bit about SEO and Shopify and how
it all sounds, so if I was listening to this in 2017 or 2018, I'd turn off this podcast and go and listen to something else.
Yeah.
But it's not as difficult as it sounds, because it's not. Especially through the pandemic, things have gotten so easy to put together.
And I think that's the message, isn't it? It's about the opportunity that's out there, and it can get overwhelming very quickly. But the thing is, you break it down step by step. And I think the thing you have to remember as you're building your knowledge, every single bit of knowledge becomes a part of your stack, and you have absolutely no idea the ecosystem that you can create. And I think this is the interesting thing about what you're saying. It's like, look, my business grew by 561% last year. I mean, it's just extraordinary numbers, but that's just the beginning, because you're 4 years in, and you already know as a 4-year business that you can survive, because most businesses pack in the first year. You're 4 years in, you're growing by 500% in 4 years. I mean, you may
coming from the pandemic,
so you may be overtaking the opportunity that you might have had with a Universal.
100%
for another 4 or 5 years.
100%, and also focusing on what my core values are as well, because obviously working with a major label is always a compromise. You can't really do what you want, and which is okay, because it's a big machine, and the big machine needs to be run by big numbers as well. So it's okay to have to make compromises in a few areas, and I always tried to ensure that the compromises I was making were still kind of in line with. There's that fly, isn't there? kind of in line with the things that I really wanted to do. Is that fly on my head now?
It's on.
Yeah, but so from 2019 on, I really just focused on what I wanted to do. And the funny thing is the most successful songs I'm releasing now, after this 10-year stretch of the Dark Tenor, is songs that I wrote while I was still with Universal, and they said they weren't great songs. And now they're just smashing big songs on stages in front of 1,100 to 2,000 people, and people are loving them. So that no turned into a yes, and I knew there was going to be a yes, but the timing wasn't right, and that's something I learned.
I think that's very inspiring, and it's also just to think about as a musician or as an artist, it's very easy to go through and you release an album and it doesn't do as well as you think, or it doesn't help with that breakthrough or whatever. But you have to remember that you're building up a whole system of music and art and assets, in on a business level, that as things compound and go into the future, things can start working for you in the future. And so look, Billy, I want to just pivot now into social media and to kind of do a crash course of some of your thoughts in social media. I know I've gone very deep into the business side, but I think it's really important that we get your insights on social media, because you're an absolute master. And not only a master, I also want to challenge you on a few things that I think you're not doing, and then we can spar a little bit about that as well. So first of all,
I think I'm not a master. I think I'm an amateur. Very often. But,
okay, well,
yeah.
Well, I
really do think.
Well, that's interesting. Well, let's talk about that. That's interesting. So fan-based development, you've been able to, you've got this sort of core, very passionate fan base. And one of the things that I love about what you do before we go on to social media things is at gigs, you do special things for them. So just give me, like, for instance, you're selling the gold tickets where people get to come and meet you and the rest of it.
Yeah.
So just give us a couple of examples just quickly of what people could do that can build that special relationship with fans beyond just being authentic and yourself. You actually have mechanisms and things that you use that show people specifically that you're thinking of them. Give me a few examples.
Well, for example, the live streams I do. This is a very simple way to build your community, to keep people engaged in your music, and it's all about the music. And you're not selling anything. You're making people choose from a long list of things they love, and that is a way to build, to definitely build your audience. So you've got your live event in, let's say, 4 weeks, and you've got like those 4 weeks to tell people, hey, I'm playing this live stream. It's completely for free, and you get to decide what I'm going to play. So if people love what your music is about, they're definitely going to go and visit your website or your app or whatever, your microsite, and then from there on, go on to participating in what you're doing. So that is something very simple, very fast and quick and easy and simple to do.
I think that's a wonderful thing, because it's just about remembering. It's so easy as an artist to be sort of caught up in the eye and one spiritual development and what one's going through, and that's great. Of course, people are looking to artists for different answers or thoughts or ideas, but what you're saying is like, well, don't make it a one-way conversation.
No,
ask
exactly
people what they want and how they can participate, and I think that's really just something that anyone can think about. So Billy, something I think both of us relate to is vlogging as an older person, as in our case as dudes. And so one of the things that I was really inspired by you when I first started working with you. I remember watching you, and you kind of every other second, you'd grab your phone out and you'd just go into Billy Andrews on social media mode. And I'd be like, how the hell? I'd be so self-conscious. I feel like so stupid and all the rest of it.
I do sometimes. I do very often.
But you do it. But you do it as a discipline, and you do it very well. And it's this very wonderful way of connecting very directly to fans. So I want to ask you about that. But before I do, I'll just say that I was really inspired, because I was always like looking at it's an older generation of people didn't grow up with social media. It was Facebook was 27 when it came out, and I was like, you pick up a camera and you don't turn it outwards to the world, you turn it into yourself, and you start speaking into the camera when other people are around you. How moronic, how stupid. I felt so self-conscious about that. And then when I started watching you do it, I started thinking about, well, what's the opportunity in vlogging? And specifically, I started thinking, how can one use vlogging as an art form rather than sort of necessarily as a sort of narcissistic thing, which was a very big presumption for me, because I just wasn't going with the world. I'm not saying that it can't be narcissistic, but I was then thinking, okay, how can I use this as a way of communicating ideas, as a way to message? And I was really inspired by how you did it. Now, when did you start using vlogging as a format online? And Billy's not like doing vlogging like sort of Casey Neistat or something. You're doing it just much more in a kind of on the go. On
very
Instagram
often I just randomly. So social media is your way to show people what's going on and to maybe just tell them something that you're excited about or something that has happened to you, or maybe you really look shitty in the morning and you just sympathize with everyone who's looking shitty in the morning, because everyone does. You get up in the morning, your eyes are swollen, you feel like you've just been run over by a truck or something like that, depending on what you did the night before. But it's it's just about giving people the possibility to see that your life is something they'd like to see, or that they can sympathize with, or see that you've got the same pain and the same struggle. You've got, whatever your struggle is in life. For example, we're sympathizing with this fly between each other. But, so that's something really simple to do as well. And sometimes some of the ads that have worked the best are ads that have nothing to do with actually making it an ad and just showing people what's going on, like with the live songs and marketing tickets. But another thing is just telling a story. And Facebook and Meta will go for the people that love watching that story. And if you're smart enough about it, you might want to put your song under it that people love as well. So it is the golden age for creatives because it's so easy to put ideas out and to give it a swing. And so one of the other things that has gone viral with me is a flash mob. So I just recently reposted it on Instagram and TikTok.
This is Ode an die Freude, and you're walking
Ode an die
through
Freude by Beethoven, and I'm walking through like a market place singing it.
How does it sound again, Billy Andrew?
Freude schöner Götterfunken, Tochterhaus Elysium. That one by Beethoven, right?
There you go, yeah.
So I did that with an acoustic guitar player, and we just walked through, and then there was like a bunch of people that joined us, and for some reason that sparked a lot of following and a lot of views.
It's like a few million now.
A few million on TikTok as well. And I just recently took the same video from back then in 2019, reposted it, and I literally didn't do anything to it. And it has gone viral again.
It's like the algorithm forgot. It's like, we'll do this again. Fun.
Yeah, and it's just, this is just to prove that if you found something that works, you've got free promotion ahead of you.
Yeah.
And if you're smart enough to do this in a realm where, let's say, you've got 10 shows coming up and you've got cities where you want to go and collect people into audiences, you could use those viral videos because you know that they're working and Facebook knows that they're working. You could just use those videos to get in front of a massive amount of people and then tell them, by the way, I'm going on tour.
And do you have
in your city?
And do you have a ritual or a target or a goal? For instance, like every day I'll do 2 check-ins or something. You just have it as something that you have as a part of your extension of your life.
Yeah. It's just everyone thinks that I'm showing them my private life, but I actually don't.
But you're not scheduling posts or anything in the future. Okay.
No. I know it's something I should be doing. I think it's something I should be doing, but actually I just wing it every day.
You just wing it. And I think the reason as well that you can wing it every day is because you've built a way of being and doing with it that's just really fun and easy, and you're very yourself with it. And it's interesting, sort of like recently I got out of I was doing a lot of vlogging, and vlogging like little 1-minute videos every few days about an idea that I was interested in. And it's quite interesting. It's like with anything, I was doing a lot of that over the last year. And the funny thing is that since I started doing that about a year and a half ago, like on Instagram, I had about a 10,000 follower increase. And so I think vlogging is not even talked about as being a very powerful tool still. People say the vlogging age is over. It's actually really use it because it's a fantastic medium. But it's quite interesting, I find, because I was in a real ritualization of just like you do, like finding it fun, whacking it out, and then suddenly I stopped doing it about a month ago, and suddenly I did one the other day, and I suddenly found it so hard again, and I remembered, oh wow, when you haven't been doing it, it's so easy and you remember, wow, how difficult it is when you're someone who's not used to doing it. So
Yeah.
if anyone's out there, I would just say, just give
go
it
for
a
it.
try. If you're an artist, and of course, if you're just not someone that likes to do that thing, you have no interest in doing it. But if you've got something and you want people to come to shows, or you're trying to build a career as a musician, it's a fantastic tool.
Yeah.
But I think, Billy, your way of doing it is about keeping it fun, keeping it consistent, and not overthinking any one post, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously I do think about things that I want to post when I've got a release coming up. So I do plan like, okay, so I've got this tour dates going out, and I've got this album pre-order starting and all of this. So I do think about scheduling those things. But in general, I just try and have fun with it. That's the general thing about it. And if you found something that works, you just try and do more things in that direction. So, for example, with that flash mob I just reposted, I asked people, where would you want me to do a flash mob? And then I saw people were commenting, and it started going viral again. And I was like, okay, so this is super interesting. So if you then take this as a testing zone, and you see, okay, this is really tested well. People actually want to do it.
Yeah.
So I've got like thousands of people who have commented. I've got thousands of people who have liked it by now and watched it. And there's like this amount of people who would actually want to do a flash mob with me in their city. So why not look at the cities or set up a system? Like I was thinking about, like, I mean, I have this live stream system kind of that is set up where people get to choose the songs, right? So what if I build a campaign, I use that flash mob video and for the first 3 or 4 seconds or something like that, and then I have like my face saying, hey guys, would like to do this in your city, somewhere around you. Would you tell me where to do it? Give me your zip code, and then people will go on my on my website, give me their zip code and maybe their name, their first name, their last name, and their email address, and the right of the first child, and then. No?
I was sorry.
You weren't listening.
For once, I was actually looking at that. Ola, are you okay, Ola? Is everything okay? I think he said something really inappropriate while I wasn't listening, which was probably just as well.
So it's just about taking like the.
I'm not even going to listen back to that.
I was testing him to see if he was still listening. But
I've been soaking the whole conversation in 1 second. You're such a man. You got me there.
So it's about taking something that you're testing and then making it a system. That's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah. So, in terms of like someone's out there and they're struggling with getting started with social media, like I just want you to give a little sort of power up. Look, this is the opportunity. Here's why I think you should be using it for your business or as an artist. What would be your sort of rousing rally cry to them? Struggling with it.
Play with it. Find something, find a channel that you like. We all follow channels that we like. We like singers that have incredible voices. And for example, one of the singers that I like, she has an incredible voice. I don't really like the music that she makes, the music she releases. I think it's horrible, but that's just music taste. We all have music tastes, fine. But the way she does cover songs, for example, and the way she sings and the way she does things is super interesting because she'll just go, us singers, we love singing in rooms like bathrooms, garages, anything that'll have like a space that transports sonic sound because it's more fun to sing in a room that transports. So I was thinking, why don't I do like short video clips of me singing songs that I love where I park my car? So every time I go to my car, what I'm going to do in the future, every time I go to my car, I'm going to take my tripod, which just it's magnetic. It connects to my phone. Go down to the car, take like an extra 10 minutes, go down, put the phone on the floor, walk back a few steps, and then start singing a song I love and walk towards the camera because that is something that is going to work visually because that's also what she does, and that's I notice. Wow, I really love watching this. Why am I stupid enough to not do that?
So you're always noticing the opportunities and what people are doing out there, and just.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I mean, it's nothing. It's you're not copycatting anything. You're watching something you love, So why not do it yourself if you think you love it?
And so in terms of your ecosystem, because everyone has a sort of content ecosystem, and your main social media platforms are Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok's actually quite strong for you as well. But I don't
for
feel
some
like,
things, for most of the things,
it's
it's
not. You
not.
gravitate towards, I think.
No.
So, but one of the things I'm just interested in terms of how you're sort of building out the business, because obviously your business is very connected. You've got Billy Andrews, the Dark Tenor musician and artist. You've got the business itself and all the different levers and systems that you're using in order to sell things. And then, you've got your social media. So I'm just interested where you might go in the future, because I said to you one time, well, look, I think YouTube would be a fantastic medium for you if you were doing something once a month, talking about classical music in terms of actually really driving forward your love of classical music. So that was one thing I was interested in. The second thing I was interested in is that you know the power of newsletters, and you've got so much data and the rest of it, and yet I don't think that you're particularly using a newsletter, or am I wrong?
Oh yeah, I am.
Oh, you are? Oh, that's good. You must tell us about that. And I was also interested in Billy Andrews on a podcast, because you're a great communicator. So, but the interesting thing is, I think you obviously have to choose your battles as an artist.
Focus.
Focus.
I mean, maybe that focus is going to shift as well, because platforms evolve, and TikTok especially has been evolving into something that I might be using a little more. So I could be using TikTok to just do cover songs. I could be using Facebook not for that.
So you'd be much more thinking creating content specifically for each platform,
maybe,
rather than just
it would be a try. But that's what I'm saying. Just play with it and see what works.
And so, what's the limit? So I know we're just drawing to an end. So a couple of last questions. But but what's the limit in terms of your energy? Because you've done this amazing thing where you're an artist, and you live as an artist, and you do all the songs and the albums and the rest of it. That's a huge amount of stuff and energy. And then you've got the company itself, and you're doing it essentially as a one-person business. And this is enormous energy.
And Gizmo.
And Gizmo. So so obviously there's a limit, and you're like, well, I could do a podcast or I could do YouTube, but I just where are the edges, and how you're using systems in order for the system to take some of the workload off you. But do you feel that you're reaching a limit in terms of what you can do yourself, or do you think you can still systematize better so that you could potentially give yourself more time to, let's say, have a look at YouTube or something?
So my limitation is making me focus on what's working. So that is maybe also why I'm still a little resilient to giving other people jobs right now. And my experiment really is to make this laptop business work like a clockwork. I am sure I can make the systems work more efficiently. 100%. You can always make systems work more efficiently. And I've changed a significant amount of technology in the background just recently to make it work even better in the favor of myself and in the favor of all of my customers or people that love my music as well. So it's always about improving on those levels. But yes, I have reached a point of time. A point of time where I definitely have to bring in people to do certain things and move things around, because my mission was to make tools in the music industry integrate into my own company, and to have my company as a 360-degree version of music industry, and to say I'm kind of putting everything in-house, kind of, and now I'm even bringing booking into my own company, because there's been several things that happened in the past with the last tour where I was like, okay, so maybe now it's time to make myself the own priority as well, and to bring in people to actually do the work on that is required to tour as an artist with a nightliner and a truck, for example. And there's 20 people on the nightliner traveling with me. So what if this was, yesterday when I was at a dinner, I was like, basically I run a circus. So it's a circus, basically. All of the people that I work with have been with me for 10 years now. They're like family.
Tell them about the amount of the amount of crew when you're touring.
Yeah, so it's a 4-piece band plus myself. Then there's merchandise, there's sound, there's light, there's all those kind of things. And on the tour I just completed, it was with truck drivers and nightliner drivers. It was 23 people altogether.
And so, what are you talking about? This is an independent tour, and you're directly dealing with.
I think it's a major tour, but yeah.
But what I mean is that you're. It's a major. Of course, it's a major tour, but you are.
And I'm dependent on Meta.
And
I'm not independent.
But the question I'm asking is that you have the overheads. This is what is separating you from the risk of sometimes someone who's got the protection of being on a massive label. In that if it goes south, you are really going south. And so, tell me about the numbers that you're talking about to put on one show and then a show of 10 shows in a row, for instance. Just to put it on before, not talking about profits, not talking about
No, it's a little difficult to say that because what we did this time is we took everything with us, right? So there's multiple ways of doing things. You can go into a venue and then they'll already have the sound system. They'll already have a little bit of lights. And
of course, I'm talking about your overheads to get your band with all the lights and all the rigging.
Oh, okay.
Road. Yeah.
So I can say for the tour I just finished, I had a cost of 15,000 euros per show.
So this is the thing, you're getting to that level where you've got
and it was 18 shows.
18 shows, and you're talking 15,000 euros a night, and this is an independent business. So this is just something I wanted to ask you about, is just about how you have a sort of very positive can-do attitude. Having said that, we're friends and we speak as well away from business. There's been a couple of times when we've spoken and you're like, Jim, I'm just all over the place, man. It's going to the edge. And how do you deal? Because you're talking major numbers. You're talking about really being on the edge. And this is what's unique about how you're doing it, is you don't have that safety net of the major label. Wherever you fall, it's like you're talking about the potential for bankruptcy if everything goes to hell through whatever reasons. And so how do you deal with that stress?
But that's with every business. Every business owner has the potential of going bankrupt.
For sure.
The pandemic was the best situation where everyone was like, okay, all the restaurants, they were like, and maybe even restaurants next year because the Umsatzsteuer is going to change again.
But then on the other hand, I'm like, when I'm doing the video of the last gig, I'm like, why the hell does this guy have to bring a whole Arctic truck of his own lights? Because all his fans love him anyway, and he'd probably sell just as many tickets anyway. I'm like, dude, why do you have to have the extra 7.5K per night? And I love that because you're putting on the wonderful show. But there's
a specific reason why.
You've got this this entrepreneur's will to get on the edge.
No, because it's like a death wish kind of. That's always there, but it's no, because there's a plan, because I see that I can scale, and my plan was to create the images of the next version of this brand. So
the investment isn't just in the tour; it's for the future.
Yeah.
So exciting! What a great way of looking at it.
So it's create the images of the success you want to have in 12 months or 24 months from here. That's the mission. That was the mission of this tour. And that's what I set out to do. So it's the same with a major label. For example, back then when I did my first album, they paid us a 6-figure number to have the license for the album. They invested into video. They invested 50K here. For the second album, they flew me out to Iceland because I wanted to go to Iceland. I learned how to horseback ride. I learned to do all kinds of things. We created this video for a massive 150,000 euros that didn't sell enough albums in the end. So there's always the risk of of investment and then risking that it might not work. So what you need to ensure is that there will be a future business because the outlook is great. If you're looking at the numbers and you're saying, well, I've grown by 561%.
It's telling you something.
we could maybe also grow by another 500% next year if we do everything right. So let's create something. And this is literally what companies do all the time. This is what Apple does all the time. So they don't. And Apple will do it in a different way because they'll not waste their own liquidity to buy companies, but they'll go to banks and say, please give me $50 million because we want to buy this. And then, of course, they're the most valuable company in the world. Every bank's going to go, here's the money. We don't care. But it's like that. You want to grow if you believe in what you're doing and you see that there's still there's this viral possibility of finding new people as well because your content's doing good, because you found out what works and you found another thing that works, then the possibility that you're spending $15,000 per show and that might wreck you is super low because you're going to start selling tickets for the next tour that is scaled to the double size. So you're going to be selling more tickets as well and you're going to grow. So it's all about keeping everything. It's all about keeping the snowball rolling. And it's all about trying to have an outlook on what's going to happen in the next 12 to 24 months.
And I think that's what I find inspiring about that. It's about having faith in the future, and it's about putting yourself on the line for it. I think it's...
Well, I'm planning the future.
I'm planning the future, but I think it's very easy as an artist who's struggling or we can veer towards paradoxically conservatism, as artists, we don't think that we're conservatives a lot of the time, but in terms of actually how we approach it, we can be so careful about looking after every single, penny in the rest of it. And of course I understand that because it's so damn hard in the arts. But what I find interesting is that, essentially your parents are American. It's also an American attitude. It's like, look,
it's a can-do.
It's a can-do thing. You put it down, you double down, you take the risk. If you go under, you go under, but then you get up again and you do it next time and you find a way.
Well, try not to go under.
Of course you try not to go under, but it's about having that belief and the courage of your convictions. And it might mean it's like, right, I want to find a way to stand out in this small type of way. So I'm not going to use my my smartphone, but maybe invest in like a little camera or whatever it is. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you're obviously talking massive scale what you're doing, but I think it's just about like, have the courage to be artistically ambitious. And if you're getting that next bit of technology or whatever it is, and find a way to get it. It might make you feel on the line or on the threshold of it, but once you get there, your skills get better. What you're putting out gets better. How you start thinking about how you can use those tools get better. I mean, that was the same with me when I started pivoting after I had lost the deal that I had with the EMI many years ago, and I got into film work, and then film work became this absolutely amazing thing. It's given me this amazing freelance career, but I had to at that point reinvest. And at the moment, I'm going through a similar type of thing. So it's just a shout out to anyone at the moment. If you're on the fence with stuff, why not double down? Why not get out of this pessimism that so many feel nowadays that's surrounding us all, and say, look, believe, double down in that thing that you believe in, because good things do happen, and get out and make them happen. So look, Billy Andrews, the Dark Tenor, I would thank you very much on behalf of us all for sharing so much knowledge, because there's so much in there for so many of us to think about and to implement into our lives. But just to draw it to a close, if it were possible for you to sum up a message to anyone who's got a one-person business, who's out there, who's starting, or an artist or a creator or a musician who's struggling, throw some fire, give us a bit of encouragement. What is it that Billy Andrews has to say to the world?
Never stop playing, because that is something that is going to find the way to move forward. We, as adults, are taught not to play. We are taught to forget our childhood playing. And playing is essentially, and experimenting is something that is going to create and propel your career forward, definitely. So being interested in the future and looking at technology and bringing it together with your own art or not, and just playing with the things and seeing what works, is the message that I have, no matter what you do. If it's business, if it's social media, if it's videos, if it's music, you just play with all of these situations and see it as a game. And then if you want to win the game, you're never really going to win the game in the end. But if you try and play the game and it's a fun game for you, then you're really onto something. And then you will 100%, if you do it like it's something that's fun, you're 100% going to find something that works, and it's going to build your career. 100%.
Thank you very, very much, man.
It was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Keep on, keep inspiring.
You should get some more of those flies.
Well, look, I only got you down to where we could get Gizmo here. That is the Dark Tenor. Billy Andrews, the Dark Tenor. Thank you for coming. Gizmo, come here, just a little paw. Oh, what a lovely thing. Come on, Gizmo. All right, okay. Hold on. We're going to get one last shot here. And damnation. All right. So we are just finishing up with the dream team on the podcast. This is Billy Andrews, the Dark Tenor. So cute. Ola over there. Thank you, brother. And we've had such a really great podcast.